Good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started as others kind of join in. Thank you for joining us today for the Assembly Bill 744 Transportation Data Program second workshop. I'd like to start off with a few introductions. My name is Sheila Innes. I'm the Transportation Data Program Manager at the Commission. Also in attendance is Matthew Yazgat, the Deputy Director for SB1 Programs. Beverly Newman Burkhard, the Program Manager for Trade Corridors Enhancement Program. And Ken Lopez, our Research Data Specialist and Subject Matter Expert for all things data related. Before we dive in, Ken is going to provide an overview of the logistics for the webinar itself. Go ahead, Ken.
Thank you, Sheila. Welcome to the Assembly Bill 744 Transportation Data Program Second Public Workshop. The CTC exists to make transportation planning, funding, and policy more understandable and accountable. Our workshops can take place in diverse locations around the state so that commissioners and staff can hear directly from our stakeholders around California. We're pleased to now offer hybrid and fully virtual workshops to allow our stakeholders the opportunity to participate more fully no matter where you are. The workshop agenda is located on our website at www.catc.ca.gov and is linked in the chat. Live closed captioning is available on this webinar. Please select the Show Captions tab at the bottom of your screen. There are a number of language options available there to choose from. Any document the CTC creates can be translated into any language you need. Simply email us at ctc@catc.ca.gov, and we will have them returned to you as quickly as possible. We welcome questions and comments throughout the workshop. You should see the webinar control panel likely located on the bottom of your screen. There will be find the questions and answers tab and the raise hand feature. You may submit a question or comment using the Q&A tab. Commission staff will read your question on your behalf. Alternatively, you can use the raise hand feature to ask a question or make a comment. When asking a question, please make sure you state your name and agency. Thank you for joining us. Sheila, back to you.
Thank you, Ken. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. So on our agenda today, I'll provide a quick overview of AB 744, as well as findings from multiple engagement endeavors going back to November of 2023. We'll also be outlining the draft proposal alternatives. Next slide, please. So quickly reviewing AB 744 objectives. Next slide, please. So the key objectives for AB 744 are outlined in this slide, with the first being to assess existing tools, then to identify data needs, as well as identifying a path forward. So these objectives will guide our discussion today. Next slide, please. We're going to go ahead and jump right into engagement findings. Next slide, please. So this slide outlines the key engagement activities we've undertaken to assess the impact of and implementation of AB 744. We used a multi-method approach, including meeting virtually with stakeholders, conducting multiple surveys, holding one workshop in December of last year, and then now the second workshop today, in order to ensure broad representation and input. Our stakeholders included MPOs, RTPAs, members of the Rural County Task Force, congestion management agencies, and self-help agencies, vendors, other state Department of Transportations, and state agency members of the Housing and Transportation Subcommittee, which includes the Department of Housing and Community Development, the Air Resources Board, CalSTA, Caltrans, Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation, Strategic Growth Council, the Department of Finance, and Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency. Each stakeholder bringing critical perspectives to help shape our understanding of the bill's implications, and the needs associated with its requirements. So the timeline on the bottom portion of the slide shows how we sequence these activities over the past year and a half, ensuring that each phase informed the next. So moving from awareness to action planning. This engagement has helped us identify gaps early and ultimately align our strategy moving forward. Next slide, please. So next we'll discuss some key insights from our engagement, beginning with the assessment of existing tools. It's important to note that these findings are a general summary of the top results. So starting with data tools utilized, starting with data outputs reported, the top 3 reported transportation outputs are travel time, vehicle miles traveled, and safety. The top 3 reported tools being utilized for data are Replica, ArcGIS, and INRIX. There were other data tools noted in the survey, such as Streetlights, RIDIS, Street Saver, Locus, Performance Measurement System, or PEMS, Placer AI, Teralytics, and then the National Performance Management Research Dataset, or NPM-RDS. Specific to modeling tools, the top and only reported tools were Bentley Cube, Caliper TransCAD, and ME. Next slide, please. So engagement insights, we'll take a look at the identification of data needs as expressed by stakeholders during our engagement. With challenges expressed, were some of the major barriers to effective adoption of data and modeling tools are technical expertise, limited staff resources, and budgetary constraints. Agencies are seeking access to standardized data sets to eliminate redundancy. Under budget and funding, budgets for data services varied widely. The median budget was around $200,000, but many agencies operate with significantly less. Small agencies may struggle with procurement due to financial constraints and resources. And then agencies express the need for funding and structured support in the areas of financial assistance, training programs, and clearer procurement processes. Next slide, please. So next we'll take a look at the draft proposed alternatives. I'll provide a brief overview of each alternative, which will include the process involved in implementation, as well as noting some pros and cons for each draft alternative. After we review this section, there'll be an opportunity to ask questions and or provide feedback. Thanks, Ken. So alternative 1 will take the form of a competitive funding program, structured similarly to other funding initiatives currently overseen by the Commission. The program could be implemented within approximately 1 year, and upon receiving applications from agencies, would be implemented as a competitive review process. So as the slide shows, applications are evaluated based on the following criteria: demonstrated need, potential impact, cross-agency collaboration, technical readiness, sustainability and long-term viability, effective use of leverage funds, and feasibility of proposed timeline. So some of the pros and cons for this draft proposal alternative is pros would be, this appears to be the most time efficient option. It allows for agencies discretion to choose tools and software that best fits their specific need. It could also close a technology gap for agencies with the most data needs. Funds could be used for training and professional development for tools agencies will actually use. It allows agencies to test potential tools for future investment and develop new technical capacity, as well as implementing group purchasing and cost savings. A couple cons that we believe might be associated with this draft alternative is that not all agencies would be successful in obtaining funds. Agencies may have limited resources to even develop a funding application. There's a lack of standardized data systems, so different tools, data sources being utilized. It is subscription-based, which means once funding is gone, alternative sources of funding will need to be secured. And then technical assistance and training would be necessary for less experienced agencies. Next slide, please. So draft proposal alternative number 2 calls for the Commission in collaboration with the Department of General Services, DGS, to purchase software licenses and then grant access to licenses to state, regional, and local agencies. This process will involve several steps internally at the commission before beginning collaboration with DGS. And these steps are part of the guidelines at DGS designed to ensure transparency, competition, and compliance with state laws and regulations. And they're noted on the screen as well. So planning and needs assessment has to be completed, selection of appropriate procurement methods, solicitation process, proposal evaluation and vendor selection, proposed contract negotiation, contract award and implementation, and then post-implementation review and performance monitoring. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the pros for this draft proposal alternative. So this would create centralized access to data tools and software, level the playing field for small agencies and agencies with fewer resources. The administrative burden is reduced for local agencies. This could be the most cost-effective in the long run due to the state's purchasing power. It removes the cost barrier to accessing advanced data tools for local agencies, and we'd be utilizing the same tools, which could foster more collaboration across agencies. Peer learning and best practices could be shared as well. A couple of the cons for this draft proposed alternative is there is a high upfront cost anticipated, a time-intensive rollout due to the extensive procurement process in collaboration with DGS. Some agencies might want more flexibility in the tools they use rather than being forced to use the tools selected by the state. With 482 incorporated cities, 58 counties, 18 MPOs, 43 RTPAs in California, the commission would need to purchase many licenses or unlimited and determine how to distribute those licenses. This is not vendor neutral. The state would be committing to specific tools and services. And then finally, technical assistance again and training would be necessary for the less experienced agencies. Next slide, please. Okay, so our final draft proposed alternative is number 3, which would require a state agency to take a leading role in developing and managing a centralized online data portal. This platform would provide secure, standard-based access to shared transportation data sets, modeling tools, and analytics software tools for use by state, regional, and local agencies. Per the California Department of Technology, there are 4 main steps in the process of publishing data on an open data portal, and those steps are listed on the slide. Stakeholder engagement and identification, data assessment and prioritization, preparation for publication, and publishing and promotion. It's important to note that this alternative would still require the procurement of software as noted in the draft alternative number 2. And we'll go ahead and take a look at some of the pros for this draft alternative. There would be a centralized access to data created. There would be even playing field for agencies created across California, especially for the smaller agencies and those agencies with fewer resources. Local agencies would not have to manage procurement or contracts, so the administrative burden would be significantly reduced. This removes the cost barrier to accessing advanced data tools for local agencies. And using the same tools would foster more collaboration across agencies, again, with including peer learning and best practices. A few cons to mention would be there's a significant investment required. This is probably the highest cost draft alternative needed to build the portal, including IT support, data scientists, and developers. And additionally, that state agency would need ongoing resources to build and maintain the portal and ensure that the data is continuously updated. This could be the most time-intensive option. Technical assistance and training would be necessary for less experienced agencies. Data governance would be difficult, identifying who owns the data, who can share the data, etc. And then some agencies might want more flexibility in the tools rather than, again, being forced to use the tool selected by the state. Next slide, please. So those are a highlight of the draft proposed alternatives. I'd like to now open the floor up for discussion, and please feel free to raise your hand or use the chat feature to ask questions or share any additional feedbacks. Once we've completed this section, we'll move on to the next steps and action items. And as a quick reminder, if you raise your hand to speak, please state your name and agency. Okay. And who do we have?
Okay. Wait, looks like we have Michael Cooker. Sorry, I'm not sure entirely how to. If I mispronounce anyone's name, I apologize. Um, oh, Sheila, can you actually look on the tab and see if you're able to unmute him?
Yes. Hold on just a second. Here we go. There we go. You should be unmuted now.
Thank you. Hi, yeah, this is Michael Cooker with Shasta Regional Transportation Agency. Thank you for organizing this call and taking on this effort. I just wanted to offer our feedback from our perspective as a very small MPO, Northern California. For us, option one is really a non-starter. It doesn't really offer much benefit to us because in addition to the grant writing process and the no guarantee of funding on that, then assuming we are successful with the grant, then we'd be looking at a procurement process, and it just creates a lot of extra work. So we would prefer to see something like number two is our preferred choice. We have some concerns about number three with regards to the ability to set up individual models and not really um, we're concerned about interference with that, I guess, is probably the best way I could phrase it at this time. So just like to offer our support for number two and thanks, but no thanks to number one.
Thank you, Michael. Okay. Any other questions? Or feedback, ideas? All right. Carrie Smith, I will go ahead and unmute you. You're free to
Thank
speak.
you. So my name is Kerry Smith. I'm with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. And of the three options, I also would support number two. But I do have a follow-up question, which is, would we be able to set up some sort of a workshop or user group or something like that where we can share experiences from, different organizations? Is that possible?
Yeah, I don't think that would be an issue at all. So when you say sharing feedback, would that be specific to if we went with a specific alternative or?
No, I'm thinking just in terms of just onboarding and building capacity across the state with some of these tools. There are different levels of expertise, obviously, in different parts of the state, and just being able to share and benefit from that would be extremely helpful.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, so we definitely appreciate any ideas and feedback, and as we're moving through this, it's pretty fluid. So we can definitely look at that, Carrie. I like it.
Thank you.
Sheila?
Sheila and Beverly, this is Matthew really quick. I know we have a couple other hands raised, but I have a follow-up for Kerry if he can unmute himself. I would be curious, would you be interested in us holding that type of a forum before we finalize a proposal to the legislature? Are you thinking it'd be something that could maybe like inform the proposal? Or are you thinking once we get to an alternative that we identify works the best for stakeholders in the commission, then kind of kicking it off with that type of a forum? And the reason I ask is I think it could be very valuable and on either side as you describe it, but what I just want to make sure I'm capturing your feedback appropriately.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Matthew. It was the last option. I was really just thinking on the implementation side. Once
Okay.
you have an option, and honestly, of the three options, this idea that I have that I'm offering is something that could be applied to any of the three.
Okay.
But I just feel like a really a user group that can meet regularly, share and exchange ideas, how-tos, all that sort of stuff would be extremely helpful. And that might be something that's hosted and managed at the state level,
Yeah.
that all the other MPOs can engage and interact with that and participate in it. With maybe perhaps some regular meetups and things like that within different parts of the state, if that's possible. But something along the lines of that would be extremely helpful. Yeah.
No, Carrie, that is excellent feedback. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila. I'll turn it back over to you and Beverly for the other hands raised.
Thank you. Beverly, did you have anything to add? I kind of heard your voice as well.
Sorry, I was just going to say that we do have a written question that I think came in before the remaining raised hands. So do you want to do that one first?
Sure, sure.
Okay, so this one is from Elliot Wong. And also just as a reminder, if you ask a question in the Q&A, could you also, like when you write it, just state your agency or organization name? It would be helpful for us just to know. Okay, so the question is, in the competitive funding alternative, could funds be used for staff time to work on activities such as data analysis, technical training, and others?
So I think, oh, go ahead.
No, you go first.
It's okay, you go ahead.
I think it would be, well, I don't know. I mean, we could propose, it's a proposal that we're making to the legislature, so we can frame it in a way where we could include different activities. But how I at least envisioned it, and I don't know about you, Sheila, is that it would be kind of for the procurement of the data tools, which is kind of what's in the statute. And also, I think we could maybe add in like funds associated with technical training for those tools. And that's how I envisioned it. But Sheila, I don't know if you have thoughts on that question, and I don't know if Matthew has thoughts on that question as well.
Personally, yes, you're correct. That's how I envisioned it as well. And I believe that they're, depending on the vendor that is selected too, there'll be training that comes along with that too. Matthew, did you have anything else to add?
I do not. I
Thank you.
think that covers it.
All right. Thank you, Beverly. Okay, so going back to hands raised, it looks like we have Bhupendra Patel. You should be unmuted now. I'm free to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. I have a couple of things to suggest in terms of the alternative. I think one alternative doesn't work for all. So you might have to think about like which works best for whom, starting from small MPO to the big MPO like MPC and with that thing, what I would say in Central Coast, MBAG and SLOCOG and SBCAG, we have a lot of collaborative effort done in the past. We have a similar platform, software, and the modeling techniques and tools, what we have developed in collaborative way. And we have that work group, even Central Coast Model User Group. We are meeting frequently to discuss what works for our Central Coast. Caltrans District 5 is also, uniquely geographically covering the 3 MPO. So what I'm effort is when you have a collaborative application, you have a bang for the buck. You can procure vendor with a competitiveness, and then you can develop the tool with the training and online featuring whatever we want to cover, we can cover in that, and then it works for entire 3 MPO. So that's one way. The alternative one might support, which includes data procurement, tool development, training, and online maintaining the tool for long term. Now, with that procurement, we can also cover what is intended goal of this particular outcome, like, what's required in terms of the continuing products as well as the data need. Any data what we procure and develop a tool can be transferable to other MPO as well. We have done that with other small 5 MPO together. So it's a creative way to procure, implement, and then share data to other MPO as well. So that can be done. So it's not just fully implementing alternative one, it can be a collaborative one, maybe 1 and 2 together. I like the MTC proposal as well because this is a continuing activity. So there needs to be some kind of a group established which can share their experience and then learn from each other. The smaller MPO can be better equipped with what developed by big MPO and a collaborative project, and they can be trained, and a tool can be tailored to use by small MPO as well. So it's a combination of both. It's not just the one alternative works, but it can be done collaboratively very efficiently, and cost saving will be always there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I will go to,
Oh, Sheila, before you go to the next person, could you actually try going to the panelists tab on participants and either hovering over my name or pressing the ... and making me a co-host so I can better help you manage the hands?
there you go.
Yay, okay. Perfect. So much, and I apologize to everyone. I should have thought of this before the workshop started. But okay, now I can help you manage these better.
Okay. So we have Siwa Hu, and then we'll go to the question and answer section. So I have unmuted you. Feel free to speak.
Okay, thank you. This is Xihua Hu from SCAG. And yeah, I just kind of have comment on this. I think the three alternatives, like you say, has a pro and con. But I want to look at it separated by model tools versus the data, right? So model, pretty much, I don't know other MPO, just for those MPOs I know, we are kind of using the model, different agency already has a model being used. So on that part, I think the agency should, should be responsible to decide which model to use. And but in terms of the data, I do think the data probably can be considered as a shared base, and particularly for the state. And you have the PAMS data, you have the NHTS. I think will be good if state can kind of organize the data as a portal, maybe, together with the AI technology. So all of the agency in the state can use the portal. And some of the data, as I know, and like a Streetlight, they already built the nice platform, easy to use. So I think those are probably, it really depends on what kind of data state is thinking to provide. And some data already has a platform, easy to use. Some data may need some effort to create a database. So this is kind of my quick comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Siwa. Nice to hear your voice again. Okay, now we will go to the question and answer section. Beverly, I'll go ahead and read this one. That's okay. And then I might need you and Matthew to respond. So this Tom Vo from the Santa Barbara County Association of Governments states that we've already procured one of the data tools mentioned in your slide for alternative one. Is there a formula or what's the min max amount available? And my apologies if I missed this critical information before. Thanks.
Okay, so for alternative one, which is the competitive funding program. So I know as a team, we've talked about a few options. We've talked about either making it purely competitive or having some sort of formula. So there's funds that would go to, funds allocated to specific regions. And then one thing that we've talked about in that is that even if it was a formula, we would probably have to have like a minimum amount for each region because we know that these tools cost money. So, if a smaller region was only, just as an example, if they were only allocated like $20,000 based on like whatever formula we come up with, they probably wouldn't be able to like actually procure anything with that amount of money. So it's something that we've considered. Obviously, like we're here to get feedback from people, so we can note that down as a question that was asked. And then I think that answers all of the questions that Tom had. And I don't know, Sheila, if you want to chime in, or Matthew, if you guys have any thoughts on that question as well.
I'll just say having a floor, or I guess a minimum or a maximum, would be heavily reliant on, how many public partners are interested in participating in this program. It's reliant on, how much funding would be potentially built into the next fiscal year's budget for such a program. But I think it really mostly relies on what Beverly said at the end of her comment, which is if we can hear from our stakeholders, which, I know we've heard from Shasta up north, which we know based on the feedback is very, very small. And we heard from MTC and SCAG, which I would say are probably on the other side of the spectrum in terms of size. We would need our public partners to let us know what like a minimum would be, right? Because as Beverly said, we know $20,000 is likely not even enough to stand up a process for a fiscal year, right? So we don't need you to provide us that feedback today on this workshop, but if you can think about this as a concept that can inform the proposal from the public agencies that you represent, that's very important information to us, because for now we can only speculate based on the survey feedback that Sheila's already received. We can only, kind of derive some of that information from our partners at other state agencies like Caltrans from some of the work they're doing. But we really need that understanding from you all, our public partners at the local, county, and regional levels, to tell us, what would be a minimum amount of funding that would even let you get value from a program like this.
Thank you, Matthew. Next, we'll go to a raised hand and then back over to question and answer. Joe Castiglione, you are unmuted. Go ahead and unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi, this is actually Drew Cooper with the San Francisco County Transportation Authority. My boss Joe couldn't join, so he shared with me his invitation.
Okay.
Apologies. But I was going to give my support alternative to just like some previous commenters. And I'll offer up as an example of a model for this type of arrangement is MTC's procurement of INRIX data for the region, which they share with county level and other local agencies for free. And we, as one of those agencies, have used really effectively and have gotten a lot of value. So I think there's like, in this context, there's a tremendous amount of value in having something that's kind of uniform and available to everybody. And then I'll also say, as a comment on alternative 3, like online open data portals are great, but they tend to be kind of reflective of like what's available and what the public sector generates. And so they're kind of end up being kind of a patchwork. And so, so for that reason, that doesn't feel like a very strong alternative to me. Thanks.
Thank you for your feedback, Drew. Okay, next we'll go to Melissa White had a question, and she posted it in the chat. So do you have a cost estimate for each option? And would the CTC be requesting funding for the final alternative? I apologize if you've covered this already. At this time, we do not have a cost estimate for each option. Beverly, I saw you came on. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, so the cost estimate is something that we've been working on for the different alternatives. And it is something that we would be, well, I mean, Matthew, you can chime in as well, but it's something that we would be kind of submitting to the legislature as part of the final proposal.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll add to what Beverly said, we would obviously be working through Justin Behrens, who's our Deputy Director of Legislation and Finance at the Commission, in the lead up to submitting a proposal so that, you know, he's our primary conduit to the legislature, and we understand, you know, budget. The budget is, you know, is obviously a very sensitive topic, and we certainly don't want to be putting something out that would be unreasonable. So it's at this time, Melissa, it is a work in progress, but you know, Justin and his legislation team have been working closely with us on kind of developing this proposal to make sure that it's, you know, as practical and reasonable based on the feedback we're getting from our participants and stakeholders in such a program, as well as with sensitivity to where the legislature and the budget is at.
Thanks, Matthew.
Thank you. Okay, next hand raised, Aaron Hoyt. You are unmuted.
Thank you, Sheila. This is Aaron Hoyt.
Aaron, we lost you.
Sorry, Sheila, that was my fault.
Oh my gosh, okay. Yeah, try to unmute again, Aaron. I think we unmuted you, sorry.
Aaron,
Okay,
I remuted you. I apologize. It wasn't anything personal. I don't.
you sure?
Yeah.
Promise.
You heard my name and hit mute. Okay.
I was like, oh, it's Aaron. I'm gonna no. I really apologize. Anyways, go ahead.
All right. So I'm not sure where I got cut off, but this is Aaron Hoyt with the Nevada County Transportation Commission and also chair for the Rural Counties Task Force. I have a few thoughts I'm going to try to put together succinctly here. I just want to thank you for the work on this, following up on the bill. I think there's a lot of data needs throughout the state to really kind of push envelopes. I know some of the large MPOs already have this data and have the tools, different software programs. I think a lot of the rural agencies or smaller MPOs may rely on consultants to do this work. And I think it would be nice for some of us who have the needs to be able to move forward with collecting our own data, analyzing it, being able to utilize it. But it does take resources internally to do that. And I'm not sure, how many of the smaller agencies would actually have staff time that could be devoted to looking into the software, becoming, experts at the data and really being able to implement it. So I do think that, kind of a centralized agency or a data portal could be very beneficial, because I think there's a low entry from a technical standpoint to going in and gathering the data, which sounds like that would be more like option 3. If we're talking about utilizing replica data or NRICS or other stuff, that could be a very easy way to go. However, I do worry about data not being tailored sufficient to certain areas or regions. The time delay it's going to take to get that information, then any, customer service or support that would be necessary. So there could be a possibility of not kind of a hybrid. I think someone else had mentioned this, maybe it's Bhupendra, but when you're talking about, funding for regions, let's just take, for example, Rural Counties Task Force. Could there be a consortium of rural RTPAs that say, hey, we would like access to this data? We could, work together to collaborate on this, share the resources on how to, work through the data, who might be leading to procure it. But I think there's a lot of conversations that are going to have to happen before someone could ever put a proposal together. I think, this would take months at a minimum to kind of figure out this sort of arrangement. So I just want to share that thoughts. I don't have the answers, but something I think it's worth looking into with the Rural Counties Task Force members, see if there's any interest in that. And then the last thought I'll share with you is I did hear from one of our transit operators in Nevada County that Caltrans ITP does have access to replica data and is going to be making it available in some shape or form to transit operators for use. So I think the question there is, are you aware of this? Have you looked into how they're dealing with this? And if it's relatively new, it might be something to follow up to see what are the lessons learned. So thank you.
Real quick, Aaron, don't go away on me just yet. So the last part was a question and following up. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so I understand that Caltrans ITP
Oh,
has access to replica data.
right.
And that's one of the softwares listed here, provides a lot of valuable insight on travel trends. And if they are already utilizing it and making this data available, and I don't know the format or how, but making it available to transit operators, is there the opportunity to expand upon this? So that's kind of the first question. Second one is kind of what are some of the lessons learned from that group within Caltrans utilizing data and making it available?
Okay, thank you for that question. I might need Matthew or Beverly's help with this. As far as ITP is concerned, this is definitely something we can look into. I don't have the answers to that one unless Matthew or Beverly happen to know. But that's something we can definitely get as well as the lessons learned.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think-
Sheila.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Beverly.
Yeah. No, go Matthew. Go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Aaron, that's definitely something that we've thought of. We do not want to duplicate efforts that are, other state agencies are endeavoring. Caltrans is probably our closest partner as a state agency when it comes to everything the commission does. And so on that front, I know Sheila and Beverly have been having regular meetings with Cal ITP. I know that there's, kind of a state agency forum that we participate in when it comes to what is currently being offered by other state agencies that could be expanded, so that what we're pursuing with this process is not redundant or duplicative, but it could be complementary or additional to. I do know, because Aaron, you mentioned, replica. Obviously, Caltrans has a very large procurement process they've stood up. They have contracts not just with replica. I understand they also have a contract with Streetlight. So without being a member, being a Caltrans team member and having the direct insight into the complexities of those contracts, I will just say with caution, I do understand there are barriers to, how wide those, you could say, things procured with those contracts can be made available. So that's something that I think we're still exploring, like the nuances of that. So we're not the subject matter experts on what, Cal ITP is currently doing, so I wouldn't want to speak for them, but I'm just saying it's a very, very good thought for us to, consider, because primarily our goal is we do not want to recreate the wheel with valuable resources. We want to try and, expand upon what's currently made available to district offices, and as you say, Aaron, transit districts or transit operators. So yeah, we have a bit more to explore in that area. But really quick before I unmute, you did bring up a really good idea that we have been talking about with our executive team. You mentioned specifically maybe like a consortium of regions, and the example you gave was like the Rural County Task Force. We would absolutely be supportive of something like that, where, if there's an opportunity for, like regions or like-sized agencies to form, a partnership or a consortium, so that they could get better value individually out of something and kind of, put their I don't want to say put their weight together to make like a larger kind of participant, like absolutely that sounds like a very efficient way of being able to provide access. So that is not an idea that is new for us. I think it's just exploring how those partnerships could be built and how to provide access to those larger partnerships.
Thank you, Matthew. Okay, doesn't look like we have any additional questions. Oh, we just got one. Susan, I'm sorry if I say the last name wrong. Q, senior modeler from Sandag. Have you considered gathering information on what data platforms agencies have already procured and implemented so we can avoid duplicating efforts and ensure SIMWrapper fills existing gaps? I don't know what SIMWrapper is, so maybe you can put that in the chat, but part of our outreach over the past a little over a year has been to find out what has been procured and implemented from the agencies that actually responded to the surveys. So the information that was covered earlier in the engagement insights kind of answers that question. Okay, if I don't see anything else, and Tom, I got your message. You'd like to be more involved in the process. I'll definitely reach out to you. Okay. Last chance, anything else? And I'll move on to the next slide if we have no further questions or comments. Okay, thank you everyone for your feedback.
Sheila, I just want to say that, like Matthew said at the beginning of the call, I mean, we still have like plenty of time in this webinar, so
Sure.
if people, I'm not saying that I'm just saying, like, if people have thoughts or ideas or questions, like now is a great time to ask. I mean, you can also follow up with us afterwards, but we're really relying on all of our stakeholders to like kind of help us steer this proposal. So, I mean, Sheila, you can go through your next steps and action items, but then we can see if anyone else has anything they want to add.
That's what I was gonna do, yes, for
Okay.
sure. Up again at the end, no problem, because there might be some questions after we go through the next steps and action items as well. Thank you, Beverly.
Yeah.
So next steps and action items. So what we're going to do is go back and synthesize the feedback received in this workshop and may schedule a follow-up workshop in the future. And then the draft proposal will be available for review in the near future as well. And then we anticipate the commission submitting the proposal this summer. So again, if there are any questions, feedback, ideas or anything, it'd be great for now to bring it up, or if you'd like to bring it up with me after the workshop. I'll go ahead and go to the next two slides, whoever's advancing the slides. Our contact information, next slide. Contact information is listed here. Feel free to reach out directly. But I'll go ahead and stop talking for a minute. So if anybody would like to raise their hand or ask another question, feel free. And Matthew and Beverly, if you have anything you'd like to add to kind of close us out, if there's nothing that pops up.
I'll just add, I think you mentioned this, but we're gonna go back and look at, listen to the recording of this workshop and make sure that we got, like, capture everyone's feedback that gave feedback. Yeah, and then anyone, you can also welcome to email us any comments you have after the workshop as well.
Thank you. Okay. Well, again, we appreciate everyone joining and providing feedback. And you'll hear from us soon. Thank you.